Hello everybody and welcome back to the Silicon Nubian YouTube channel where we're all about things tech. It's router upgrade time for me, and after much deliberation and research I chose the router that I'm going to use. I chose the Asus RT-AC86U. In this video I'm going to go through an unboxing. I'm going to talk about some of the decision making process and why I chose this particular router. And we're also going to go check out the configuration of the router, the web-based configuration, and on top of it we're going to show the installation and the poke around the latest third-party firmware, I should say, called Merlin. One of the main reasons I chose these routers. I'm presently running an RT-N16 router from Asus. I was using a TP-Link C3200, as you can see right here. This router is a good router. Hardware-wise, it's quite good. But the big disappointment for me was the lack of timely firmware support, and the one or two issues that I did have with the router. For example, connecting multiple devices on one of the 5 GHz channels and a few other things. Considering that the newest firmware was well over a year plus old, didn't seem like TP-Link had a lot of concern in supporting this unit anymore, and third-party firmware was a hassle to deal with it. So I sold that to someone who would benefit from it, and I decided to go back to the Asus router route and get one of these. So let's start with a quick unboxing. Purchased it today on sale. Not the cheapest router, cost me I think over 200 Canadian, but let's open the box. One of the biggest concerns for me was third-party firmware support. I was running Tomato on my RT-N16 for quite a long time. Very happy with it, and I'm ecstatic that the third-party firmware called Merlin exists for these Asus routers. And the beauty about Merlin, it's actually just a modified original firmware, as Asus uses open source code to make their firmware, so it makes it easy. So what the maintainer of Merlin does is he fixes any glaring issues, adds a few more small but significant features, and basically it's a no-brainer. No need to go through in hoops to install Merlin. As to the router, it just looks like it's another Asus firmware. The only a negative thing, which is not really that negative, I have to say, is that Merlin firmware releases follow on the heels of official Asus releases, so you might have to wait a week or 2 or 3 until the Merlin firmware is updated, but you usually it's much worth the wait. So here's the box. You look on the back, some of the features. I know that there's an app that you can use to control some of the functions of the router. Has a fast processor, great Wi-Fi coverage. Everything I've read about this router is good. Talking about router reviews, as I open the box, you have to take them with a grain of salt. When you read router reviews, people rarely post what firmware they're using, what connected devices, and where it's located in their home. One of the things that I do like about the new Asus router firmware is AI mesh is supported. AI mesh systems are becoming very popular, in particular when you want Wi-Fi coverage through a large area. And you can use this router and some of the other models. I think the 68U, which is a very popular and good router as well, does have AI mesh support in the latest firmware release, if I'm not mistaken. And you could basically place them all through the house and get complete and very quality Wi-Fi coverage. I'll read a little bit, not that much. So it has 1 gigabit LAN port, and it has 1 gigabit WAN port and 4 gigabit LAN ports, which is all I need. I didn't need to go all the way up to the 88U model, which has 8 ports. Didn't need all of that. It has a USB 3 port for external devices. I can turn this into like a sort of poor man's NAS if I want to. And it has a USB 2.0 port. And 3G, 4G sharing, hard drive sharing, Samba, DLNA server. So it has, you can serve up media. It's all built into the router. And FTP server, and printer server support. So basically, it's a good hub for all your network needs in your house. And what the firmware does, realistically speaking, I always tell people a quality router is defined by the firmware. Tomato proved that to me, that you can take a quote-unquote consumer level device and turn it into almost an enterprise level device via firmware, as long as the device was beefy enough to run that. So we have encryption, all the encryption support, pretty standard stuff, web management, power adapter included, stuff like that. So let's take a quick look at the router itself. Open up the box. Rapide, facile, configuré. If you don't speak French, this is the English side. Fast, easy setup. So setting up a router is a no-brainer. Most people, I guess, would just not go through this. You obviously have to change your login password, which many people don't do. And I feel sorry for a lot of people who just plug in the router and go. You need to really set up your wireless encryption and whatnot. So that's there. And we have WT Fast, what the fast. So I guess this is the, will update regularly, please follow steps to keep your firmware up to date. Looks like it might be automated firmware updates. I'm not a fan of that with routers. I prefer to read about the firmware, wait a few days, unless there's a real serious security issue that needs to be fixed pronto. I like to see what other people, their experiences that they have, although Asus firmware updates have been fairly solid for me with the two products that I've used. And here we have the router. First we'll look at the accessories. We have the antennas, very stylish. There's 3 of them. And get to the router last. Save the best for last. VIP member warranty notice. Read that later. We actually have a book. Instruction book. This is actually interesting because you don't find these a lot anymore in a lot of different devices. I've had even motherboards where they basically tell you to go and download the PDF. So that's good to have. Multilingual, English, French, Dutch, Greek, Italian, Nords, Portuguese, Espanol, Spanish. So we got the book right there. Have the power adapter. Not much to see here, standard stuff. And they even include a short run of RJ45 networking cable. Nothing really to see here. It's probably a Cat 5e or Cat 6. So that's good. So let's take a look at the router itself. Here we have it. Get this out of the way. That's the router. Very stylish, like the red colors. I gotta tell you that style is the last thing I look at when purchasing one of these devices, in so much as its main function is what I'm concerned about. Routers mostly are set and forget. One of the things about this router that I liked, as compared to routers that have a higher model name, this is actually newer. Like I said prior, I believe from what I've read, the 86U is actually a more recent, uses more recent hardware and SOC than the 87U and potentially the 88. I'm not sure, but the 87U for sure. And what this has, it also has hardware encryption support, accelerated hardware encryption support. So supposedly running VPNs through this particular router is actually more seamless and faster than some of the other routers in the model line that are higher rated than this. It's a dual channel router, of course. We have the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz bands. You can see the antenna connections at the top. It's designed to stand up. You can see it has feet, a foot. In the back, we can clearly see the 4 LAN ports and the WAN port. We have LED power on and off. LED on and off, sorry. So that's very good. And if you're in an environment where the router is, for example, in your bedroom for whatever reason, you can actually turn the lights off. And here we have the USB 3 port. USB 2 port, power, and it looks like power, and I have a reset button. Pretty simple, nothing on the bottom. It does come with little rubber strips. This is a nice touch. Actually, they're fairly substantial rubber strips so that the router won't slide around on the surface you put it on. And you got all the indicator lights here for the different ports. You got the LAN ports, the WAN, Wi-Fi, the two different radios, the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz, and we have the power. So everything that you need. The styling's quite nice, but I got to tell you once again, styling means nothing to me with respect to routers. It's all about the performance and the stability of it. So that's my quick unboxing. We're going to move on to part 2 of the video, where we're going to hook this up and we're going to go look at the GUI interface. Now to the second half of this video, where I'm going to show you the user interface of the Asus RT-AC86U, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to upgrade to the third-party firmware known as Merlin. So I have all my links prepared on my desktop. First we'll show you the Merlin website. Here it is. You can see the URL, it's right here. Merlin is, I guess you would call it a labor of love from the developer. Basically gets all the latest firmwares from Asus and works wonders with them. Removes some of the bugs, adds a few, not many, but a few very well-desired features. So we'll see that the stable is 384.5, and just for the sake, I've looked at the latest version on the Asus website. It's 384-21140. Now I'm not sure if the numbers correspond completely, but it is the 384 branch. So Merlin's not that far behind if it is, and this would be the latest update for the router that is the focus of this video, the new one that I just purchased. So we go back there, we would list on there's documentation, you can see the change log, and here we are, 384. Quite a lot of things in here. You could see right there. They tell you which model is supported, which isn't, what's changed, and whatnot. So we can see that it came out the 25th of July versus the Asus firmware, which came out on the 10th. So there was a 2-week delay, potentially. I'm thinking if it's based on the same latest version. So, and here's a good website. Small Network Builder forums. Excellent website if you want to look here and get some information just on a side note. And I did go and check the forum. I always look, like I said, I never just update to firmware. I look to see if anybody's having issues, and there's nothing here that I can say is a showstopper for me. So this is the actual Asus site support for the router. This is the Merlin firmware, and this is the router interface. As we logged in, we're running 384.20467, and if we go to the Asus site, it's 384.21140. So what this little blinking icon here is telling us is that there is a new version of firmware out. So the router itself goes and checks for firmware and will inform you of such. I believe it can also auto install, but I didn't want that to happen. Okay, so you can see the LAN is connected. We're using WPA2 Personal already on 5 gigahertz band, which is showing here, and we have the 2.4 gigahertz band. We won't save that. So here we have guest network disabled and all the other things. But what we're really here to do is to upgrade to Merlin. So let's go and do that right now. Go to administration, firmware upgrade. If anything, it looks like the user interface is a little slower than even on the RT-N16, which has much inferior hardware. But that being said, this is a pretty intense user interface. I'm not going to fault it. The router itself seems to be working fine. Setup was easy as pie. So here we can go. We can do the check. We already know that there's a firmware available. It'll go out to Asus. It'll check what firmware is available. We already had the indicator here that yes, there is a new firmware update, and this is checking for us, and it's telling us that there is a version here, 21140, as we saw on the website. But I want manual firmware upload. I want to upload my own firmware. Go on the desktop. And like I said before, with the Asus router, Merlin firmware is basically the real Asus firmware with a few modifications, so you won't have an issue flashing it at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to flash this, and we're going to come back and we're going to log into the new router firmware and take a look around. Okay, we're back. We've now logged into the Asus Merlin firmware, and we can see up here, powered by AsusWRT-Merlin. And we're running 3846, which is the version that we downloaded. It's going to look very similar. I'm loving this GUI interface. It looks really pleasing to the eye. We've seen that nothing is connected here to USB. We see they have 9 clients. 9 clients. I'd have to count that. I'm sure there is. We can see that Wi-Fi is turned on. And we can... No guest network. We can see that the WAN is enabled. And no USB disk is the... So let's take a poke around a little bit. You can see our RAM usage. Used 266 megs, free 246, total 512 megs of RAM available. We could see that 2 of the WAN ports, the WAN port and the LAN port, are connected. So pretty easy to see status right away. We could see our external IP, and we can set up a DNS account, a dynamic DNS account if we need to, and the security level for the Wi-Fi. So let's continue. Go to guest network. It's been disabled. Not a fan of this. I can just create a separate network, or if I have a family member coming over, maybe I would enable this. We have AI protection. So we have network protection. They team with Trend Micro, Asus it seems, to use real-time network monitoring to detect malware, viruses, and other intrusions. So we have network protection, malicious sites blocking and whatnot. Parental controls, we have time scheduling, web and app filters, and DNS filtering. So here we have adaptive QoS, quality of service, and this is always good. I'm an online gamer, and you may want to attribute, and it goes by MAC address. So this is not a page that I would say is user friendly per se, but then again, I wouldn't think that brand new users would know about dealing with QoS and a few other things. So here we are. We can turn it on, and then what we can do is, I'm a gamer like I was saying before, and I could say, well, my gaming machine needs higher priority with respect to network bandwidth, so I don't get the hiccups. You can also, for example, have Roku stick streaming Netflix. Let's say you're streaming 4K or regular Netflix around the house, and you know people are gamers in the house. Then you would give the Roku sticks higher priority, so that you would have a smooth viewing experience. And here's our web history. So we have a traffic analyzer. Again, there's not going to be much information present just because the router's only been in for a short period of time. You can go real time, which we have now, 24 hours, daily and monthly. Game boost. So this is some of the features that Asus is touting right now for the routers. Selects the most efficient route for game packets. I guess it's some kind of proxy server, but I'm not sure. Maybe in the comments you guys can tell me what it is. The fast, WT fast. Here we have LAN boost. Adaptive QoS optimizes inbound and outbound bandwidth on both wired and wireless connections. Application tasks can be optimized easily using drag and drop presets for gaming. There you go. Real-time network protection, incorporating state-of-the-art 3-prong security from Trend Micro, gives you enterprise-level security and whatnot. So we have a lot of interesting features on this router. Then we have the USB application. So if AI disk, share files on a USB disk. You could set up a media server. Again, DLNA server and whatnot is included. Network print server, it supports printers. I don't know the list exactly. You could plug in a 3 or 4G USB wireless dongle and share the bandwidth, I suppose. You have time machine functionality and download master, PC free download manager. So all that is included. All right, we have AI cloud. So here's where you can access resources from anywhere in the world through the internet, such as USB disks. Kind of create like your own cloud. Personal cloud, smart access, Samba networking for network PCs, smart sync, synchronization of USB attached storage with cloud services. Interesting. Okay, then we go down to tools, and here we have the firmware version, the date, and the bootloader to driver version, and all the features here. OpenVPN and all this other stuff is included, which is excellent. CPU model. CPU frequency 1800 megahertz, and total memory and all that other stuff, what's connected and whatnot. And here we have advanced settings. We can go into wireless. I'm going to play around with this later. We could go WPS, WDS, wireless MAC filter, radius setting, professional. Let's take a look at that. Okay, these are some very interesting settings. It's one of those things where if you don't know what it means, like explicitly don't touch it. And here we have Wi-Fi radar, which I think Wi-Fi site survey, yes. Wireless channel statistics, advanced troubleshooting. You could choose your wireless channels appropriately for best bandwidth and least interference. Here we have the LAN settings. And here we have DHCP server and whatnot. And we have the WAN settings. Dual WAN, port trigger, virtual server, DMZ, dynamic DNS, and that passed through. IPv6, of course, full support is enabled. We have it disabled right now. And here we have VPN, PPTP, OpenVPN, OpenVPN. Well, a lot of support for different VPN. We have VPN, it can be a server, it can be a client, and Tor is even supported. Okay, and here we have the firewall. Of course, quality routers have a firewall. Enable firewall, we have denial of service protection. And I like how you have a little question mark that pops up, and you have a little blurb telling you what it can do. Respond to echo log packets, respond to ICMP pings, and whatnot. And then we have URL filter, keyword filter, network services for more features right there. Of course, we went through the administration in order to update the router with the new firmware. And here we have what mode. Well, of course, we're using wireless router mode. You could do repeater mode, access point, or media bridge. System should give us a lot of little settings for the system itself. What time zone, it automatically found that. Firmware upgrade, restore, save, and upload settings. Temperature, interesting. I haven't seen this before. That must be the internal temperature of the router. CPU maybe is at 71C, which sounds a little high to me. I'm not sure if these temperatures are actual real, and the router is not exactly sitting in a drawer. So this, take it for what it is. And we have privacy here. Please no user required to agree to share information before using Dyn DNS, remote connection, Asus, and whatnot. Just a little blurb there, and we have the system log. If you want to read through pages and pages of text, but it will help you to, and it's helped me a lot to, at times, to find out what exactly is going wrong with the wireless log, leases, IPv6 routing table, port forwarding, and connections, and all the connections that are being made. There's a lot. You think you're just connecting one time? Huh, surprise. And here we have networking tools at the end. We have a network analysis. We can ping different sites. We can a netstat, wake on LAN, and smart connect rule. There's a lot more you can do. So all in all, and we have a quick internet setup. Which looks like that. You go with that. Once you boot up the router for the first time, you can go into that, and you can set up your router quickly, and then you can change all the settings you want in as you need. So all in all, I'm liking this. The only negative I can see is that the GUI interface is not as quick as I thought it would be, but it's actually pretty fast. Probably now that a lot of it's being cached in the browser cache, it's working very good. No issues whatsoever right now. This is not, I don't have any performance numbers to tell you or whatnot. I probably will put that in the comment section as I live with the router for a longer period of time. And that's the video. So we've taken the wrapping off of a brand new Asus RT-AC86U. We've unboxed it. We've gone in, just poked around a little bit on the initial interface, updated with the third-party AsusWRT-Merlin, and poked around some of the screens to show you what features are available to you. Hope you've liked the video. If you do, thumbs up, and tell your friends and family and everybody about this channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and take care. Thanks for watching.